now releasing all goblins.
Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. If you're a skeptic like me, their easy customer service and detailed reports make the whole interaction transparent and safe. And if you use the affiliate link in the description below, or the promo code MTGMUDSTA, you'll save 10% off their fees. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. Not to mention an easy to use and great online buy list. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG sealed and singles will be 5% off. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest deck. So be sure to use the code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's patron shoutout goes to Sparky. Thanks Sparky for supporting the channel. In today's game, Mika, Fred, myself, and Ian are battling it out, with Mika playing his kicker Verzal deck, keeping Arithmethes the Slumbering Isle, Incubation Druid, Reclaim the Wastes, Woodland Stream, Forest, Verdaloth the Ancient, and Vorinclex Monstrous Raider. Fred is playing his mono-white Flyers deck with Sayara, keeping Boromir Warden of the Tower, Honor of the Pure, Moat, 3 Snow-Covered Plains, and Ranger's Hawk. I'm just here to bake some cookies playing Brenard, keeping Eladamri's Call, Darksteel Citadel, Enlightened Tutor, Horizon Canopy, Irrigated Farmland, Sakura Tribe Elder, and Court of Calling. Last but not least, Ian's been inspired by Jurassic Park, and he's playing his Gisath deck. He keeps Rampaging Brontodon, Kessig Wolfrun, Jungle Shrine, Temple of the False God, Mountain, Migration Path, and Farseek. Mika wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws and plays a forest. This lets him cast Reclaim the Wastes, going to get an island, and passing. Fred just draws, plays a Snow-Covered Plains, and casts a Ranger's Hawk. I draw and play a tapped Irrigated Farmland. Ian draws for turn and plays a Jungle Shrine, which comes in tapped. Mika draws for turn, plays an island, and casts Incubation Druid. Fred's got another Plains for turn, and then casts Honor of the Pure. Going to combat, he pokes Mika for 2 with the Ranger's Hawk, and passes to me. My turn has me playing Horizon Canopy, and then losing 1 as I tap it to help cast Sakura Tribe Elder. Ian draws, plays a Mountain, and casts Farseek. He goes to find a Plains, and passes after that. Mika draws, and plays a Woodland Stream. He then casts Verzal, putting 0 into the X, which allows his commander to enter with 2+1/+1 counters onto it, and he passes after that. Fred draws, and plays a Plains. He then casts Sayara, and moves to combat. He swings the Ranger's Hawk at Mika again, this time for 3, and then passes to me. I just draw, play the Shire, and pass turn. Ian draws and plays a Temple of the False God, and then makes a bit of a flub. Thankfully we catch it later on, and he does tell us that he has a Kessig Wolfrun in hand, which we knew from his opener, but he actually casts a Migration Path to go and find 2 basics. Technically he couldn't do this because the Temple wouldn't tap for mana, but as I said, he had another land in hand, so it was just a bit of a misplay. He passes after that. Mika draws and casts Solemn Simulacrum. As it enters, he goes to find a forest, and passes. Fred draws and plays a Plains, which I don't really say with a surprise since he's mono-white. He then casts Endless Atlas, and he goes to combat. He swings the Ranger's Hawk at me this time, and I take 3, and Fred passes. I draw for turn, and play a forest, and then cast Brenard. I lose 1 from the Horizon Canopy, but my commander then comes in, and once he's out, I sacrifice the Sakura Tribe Elder. This gets exiled, and comes back as a food golem, and I then go and find forest from it. With nothing else, I pass. Ian draws and plays Arch of Araska. He's then able to play a Rampaging Brontodon, and with it on the stack, Fred responds by activating Endless Atlas, drawing a card. The Brontodon then enters, and Ian passes. Mika's turn has him just drawing and playing a Simic Guildgate. Fred draws and plays a Plains. He casts Vanquisher's Banner, naming bird as it comes in, and then goes to combat. He swings the Hawk at me, dealing 4 this time, and then passing turn. My turn has me playing a Darksteel Citadel, and I then cast my own Solemn Simulacrum, going to find a basic. I then evoke a Wave Sifter, which comes in and makes 2 clue tokens, and then I sacrifice it to its evoke trigger, and it dies. It gets exiled and comes back in as a food golem, making me 2 more clues. The Solemn also goes to find me at Plains, and I pass after that. Ian draws and plays Rogue's Passage. He then casts a majestic Heliotopterus, and he goes to combat. Ian swings the Brontodon at me, and I soak up 4 of it with the Solemn, and take a total of 11. With the Solemn dying, I get to exile it with Brenard, and get to draw a card before I go and find a basic. Ian then passes through his phases, and during his end step, Mika adapts his Incubation Druid. Mika's turn has him drawing and playing Arithmeses, and then passes to Fred. Fred draws and plays his own copy of Arch of Araska. He then plays a Scouting Hawk and draws a card from the Vanquisher's Banner. Moving to combat, Fred swings the Ranger's Hawk at Mika, and Mika takes the hit. After that, Fred just passes to me. I draw and cast Eldamri's Call in my main phase to go and find Jaheira and put her to hand. I then play a Flooded Grove. Once that's out, I cast Jaheira and follow that up with Evolutionary Leap and pass turn after that. Ian draws and plays Kessig Wolfrun for his land for turn. He then plays Itzquinth, and as it comes in, fights Mika's Solemn Simulacrum. Going to combat, Ian swings his Heliotopterus and Brontodon at Mika, and before moving to blocks, Mika responds by casting a Kicked Blink of the Eye, and gets to remove 2 counters from Verzal, copying the spell. This has Mika bouncing both creatures to Ian's hands, and draws 2. Ian then moves to a second main phase, replaying the Heliotopterus, and passes turn. Mika draws and plays Vorinclex Monstrous Raider, and then replays Verzal, who comes in with 4 counters this time, which are then doubled to 8. Once that's done, he plays a Balagid Sanctuary as his land for turn, and passes to Fred. Fred draws and plays a tapped Secluded Steppe. He then plays a Cloud Chaser Kestrel, and targets the Evolutionary Leap as it enters. I respond by casting Court of Calling and tap an appropriate amount of creatures so that the X is 7. This lets me go and find a Darksteel Splicer, which as it enters, makes me 3 3/3 Golem tokens. I then sacrifice the Splicer to Evolutionary Leap, which gets exiled, and I get to make a Food Golem copy of it with Brenard. I then resolve the Leap trigger, revealing until I hit a Foundation Breaker and put it to hand. The Evolutionary Leap is then destroyed, and Fred continues his turn, moving to combat. He swings his 2 Hawks at me, and I take a total of 8, and after that, Fred passes. During my upkeep, I cast Enlightened Tutor, and go and find Cyberdrive Awakener, and put it on top, and then draw it. Fred also decides to get in on the action during my draw step, activating his Endless Atlas to draw as well. Moving to my main phase, I then cast the Awakener and make all of my non-creature artifacts into 4/4s, and all of my artifact creatures gain flying. After running the numbers, I can't kill anyone, so I decided to hit everyone at least for a big chunk with my golems and clue tokens. After no one declares blocks, and they take their hits, I just pass to Ian. Ian draws and casts his commander Gisath, and then goes straight to combat. He swings the Dino Daddy at Fred, and Fred decides to block with the Cloud Chaser Kestrel to soak up some of the damage. The Gisath trigger then reveals an Earthshaker Dreadmaw, which draws him 3 cards as it comes in, and after resolving all that, Ian then moves to a second main phase, casts an Arcane Signet, and passes. Mika draws her turn and casts Telling Time. He follows up with a Wilderness Reclamation, and then moves through his phases to his end step, untapping his lands. Fred draws and plays a Plains. He casts Tashar, and then Boromir once Tashar is out, which brings him back Kestrel, which as it enters, destroys the Wilderness Reclamation. Fred then goes to combat, and Mika kicks an Into the Royal, removing some counters so he'll get to copy it with his commander, and he targets the Cyberdrive Awakener and Heliotopterus to open up some attacks. Fred decides to take advantage of this by swinging his Hawks at me, but I'm able to block one of them with the Wave Sifter and take the rest. During Fred's end step, I then sacrifice the Solemn Simulacrum food token, drawing a card and gaining 3. I draw, and in my main phase cast Eternal Witness, returning to hand Eladamri's Call, which I then cast. I go into my library and grab a Moonshaker Cavalry and put it to hand. I then cast the Cavalry to pump up my team and give it flying, and all of my creatures gain +13/+13. I then go to combat, and I swing it at Mika, but sadly, this time he has the mana up for Aetherize, which absolutely blows me out of this game. And to add insult to injury, Ian and Fred also give Mika handshakes for a job well done. With no way to really recover, all I can do is pass to Ian. Ian draws and goes to combat. As I'm now completely open, he swings his commander at me and dumps his mana into Kessig Wolfrun to take me out. He gets a massive trigger from Gisath and gets to reveal a Bronzebeak Foragers, Regisaur Alpha, Bellowing Agisaur, and a Sunfrill Imitator. He gets to exile Vorinclex and the Vanquisher's Banner with the Foragers, and makes a 3/3 Dinosaur from the Alpha. He then plays a Secluded Courtyard, naming Dinosaur as it comes in, and passing turn. Mika draws and plays an island for turn. He then kicks a Croson Druid, and removes some counters on Verzal to copy it. The Druids then come in, and Mika gains 20 life, and then passes turn. Fred draws and plays Elish Norn. Sadly nothing dies from it, but Mika and Ian's creatures shrink significantly. Moving to combat, Fred then swings all of his birds at Ian to take him down to 3, and with nothing else, has to pass. Ian draws and goes to combat. He swings out at Mika, and has the Imitator become a copy of Gisath, and then casts a Chroma's Will before moving to blockers. Ian's creatures get Keyword Soup, and Mika then gets taken out, Ian gains 42, and gets to reveal his top 23 to his multiple Gisath triggers. He gets a massive amount of dinosaurs from it, and after dealing with it all, Ian then passes turn. Fred draws hoping for a board wipe, but doesn't get there. He activates Endless Atlas again, drawing once more. He then casts Moat to try and stop everything, but after realizing that Zakama's on board can destroy it, Fred knows when he's beat, and scoops it up. Game review time. This game was 1 hour and 6 minutes long, and by the end of it, it felt like a really slow game, but that's probably because I got aetherized and lost all of my token creatures, and basically had nothing. I had a really strong board state, so I don't blame Mika for doing it, but a little part of me is sad. Considering that Fred's commander is from Alliances, I think, or Fallen Empire, it actually did a pretty decent amount of damage. There were a lot of Anthem effects pumping up his flying birds, and he was able to connect pretty easily since all of his creatures have built-in evasion. Verzal is such an odd commander, and I kinda love it. I love the build around me type of commanders, and having to focus heavily on kicker cards even though they're very expensive and kind of not that great is always fun to see, especially when you get such incredible payoff of copying them. Speaking of payoff, Ian got a lot of value out of Gisath, and he was able to get over 21 cards deep into his library after that big attack where he had the Sunfrill Imitator. I love that card, I got to reveal it, and it was really cool to see it in action. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.